Fraction. What is a fraction? A fraction is used to represent part of a whole. Examples of fractions are 1/2 or half, 2/4 or 2/4, 3/8 or 3/8, 10/100, 15/3, 25/5, 2 whole number, 2/3, 8 whole number, 3/4. Please note that fractions are used to represent parts of a whole. Now let us take a look at the next line. If we take a fraction like 1/4, we can say this as 1 divided by 4 or a quarter. We will use the illustration below to describe a fraction. Let us assume that the cylindrical object on the screen is a cake, and I cut it into 4 equal parts as shown on the screen. If I eat one of the 4 parts, then the fraction of the cake I have eaten can be described as 1/4, or 1/4, or 1/4. Assuming I still have the 4 equal parts, and I ate 2 out of the 4 parts, then the fraction of the cake I have eaten can be described as 2/4, or 2/4, or 2/4. And finally, let us assume that I still have the 4 equal parts, and I ate 3 out of the 4 parts. Then the fraction of the cake I have eaten can be described as 3/4, or 3/4, or 3/4. Example 2. I will further explain the meaning of fractions using the examples below. Let us assume that we have 8 teapots. If I remove 1 teapot out of the whole of 8, in this case, 1 black teapot is removed. The fraction of teapots removed is 1/8, or 1/8. Let us assume that we still have 8 teapots. If I remove 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 teapots as shown on the screen, the fraction of teapots removed is 5/8, or 5/8. Again, let us assume that we still have the 8 teapots. If I remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teapots as shown on the screen, the fraction of teapots removed is 7/8, or 7/8. Numerators and denominators. When numbers are written in fractions, the numbers above the line are called the numerators, and the numbers below the line are called the denominators. For example, if I have 3/4, or 3 divided by 4, the number 3 above the division line is referred to as the numerator, while the number below the division line, in this case 4, is referred to as the denominator. Remember that denominators can never be 0. That is, the number below the division line cannot be 0. For example, 3/0, 100/0, and so on are not acceptable as fractions. Types of fraction. Now, let us quickly look at the different types of fraction we have. 1. Proper fraction. 2. Improper fraction. And 3. Mixed fraction or mixed number. proper fraction. A proper fraction is a fraction that has the numerator less than the denominator. Remember in the earlier examples that the number above the line is called the numerator and the number below the line is referred to as the denominator. Anytime the numerator is less in value compared to the denominator, then we are referring to a proper fraction. Here are some examples. 3/4. 3 is less than 4. 3 is the numerator and 4 is the denominator. 10/100. 10 is the numerator, which is less than 100, the denominator. And that is why it is called a proper fraction. 5/25. 5 here is less than 25. So, this is equally an example of a proper fraction. 8/9. 8 is less than 9. 8 is the numerator and 9 is the denominator. All these are examples of proper fractions. In the next lesson, we will be looking at improper fraction. Improper fraction. What is an improper fraction? An improper fraction is a type of fraction that the numerator is greater or equal to the denominator. Please note carefully that anytime the numerator is greater in value than the denominator, we are referring to an improper fraction. Examples of improper fractions are given as follows. 2/1. 2 is greater in value compared to 1. So, 2/1 is an example of an improper fraction. 3/2. 3 is greater in value compared to 2. And that is why 3/2 is an example of improper fraction. 20/10. 20 here is the numerator and 10 is the denominator. 20 is greater in value compared to 10, and that is why it is an example of an improper fraction. I stated earlier that if the numerator and denominator have the same value, then they are also referred to as improper fractions. For example, 5/5, 11/11. In these two examples, you will notice that the value of the numerator is the same as the value of the denominator, and they are examples of improper fractions. In the next lesson, we will look at the third type of fractions, called the mixed fraction or mixed number. Mixed fraction or mixed number. A mixed fraction or mixed number is a fraction that has both whole number and a fraction. For example, 9 whole number, 5/7. 9 is the whole number, 5 is the numerator, and 7 is the denominator. Another example is 1 whole number, 3/5. 1 is the whole number, 3 is the numerator, and 5 is the denominator. If you look carefully, you will see that the mixed fraction always have a whole number. Another example is 2 whole number, 2/5. 2 is the whole number, the second 2 is the numerator, and the last number, which is 5, is the denominator. And a final example is 4 whole number 1 over 2. 4 is the whole number, 1 is the numerator, and the last number, which is 2, is the denominator. This can also be pronounced as 4 and a half. In the next lesson, we will learn how to convert one type of fraction to another.